Happy almost end of July! Yeah, this video was supposed to come out at the beginning of the month. I just got really lazy and really busy all at once. I'm so sorry, but hopefully you do enjoy this. So if you're new to the channel, you want to look at more of my movie stuff, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I upload, and I hope you enjoy the video. This is everything I watched in June! The first movie I watched was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, technically, I saw this at the end of May for a press screening, but I wanted to throw it into June because that's when the movie came out. I actually like this movie a lot more than the first. That's not to say the first one was bad by any means, but this one just resonated with me more. The first one kind of tackles this concept that anyone can wear the Spider-Man mask, and that's what Miles does in that first movie. He finds his potential, he takes over for the old Spider-Man, and I think that's a beautiful story in and of itself that lends to some very wonderful moments, and kind of just shows people that, you know, Spider-Man's much more than just Peter Parker. But the second movie, I actually liked its theme a lot more. For me, the second movie tackled this whole idea of everyone around you is going to be telling you how you should live your life, what you should do with your life, but at the end of the day, you're going to do your own thing, and that's great. That theme is said directly in the trailer and shown throughout the entire movie of Miles now being in the mantle of Spider-Man and understanding, like, this is my life, I get to do what I want with it, I'm gonna go my own path, no one can tell me that. And you see that both reflected in him as Spider-Man when he's breaking canon events, as well as him as a student when he's with his parents in the beginning of the movie. I also really like the animation of this movie. I think it's the best animated movie in terms of looks of all time. I don't think I've seen animation to this level ever, and I'm quite impressed with it. Every time I go see clips from it, I'm blown away. I like the relationship between Gwen and her father, because it's this whole concept of accepting someone for who they are, and, you know, in this day and age, that's something a lot of people have to work on, is accepting people for who they are and what their identity is, and, you know, that shows up in Gwen, but in the instance, they use Spider-Man. And I think this is a good way to show off Gwen and show who she is as a person, and I love what they do with this character in this movie, and I love how it's a rounded out story arc for her. A lot of people had a complaint about this movie being incomplete, and I get that. It's a part one to a two-part, I guess, end to the trilogy, and it definitely shows in the very end. When the movie ends, you're like, oh my god, what happened? That's the end of the movie? I want more. And we gotta wait now. But I really wasn't bugged by it. I know it's an incomplete story, and that could technically knock it off half a star for some people, but for me, I didn't let that bother me too much. I just gave it a 5 out of 5, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this movie. After that, I saw a movie not as worth your time, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. It was fine. It's kind of a soft reboot for the Transformers franchise. I only saw it because I had to cover it for a press thing, and I wasn't that wowed by it. It had some great action sequences. I was really impressed with the CGI in it for the most part, especially with the animal Transformers, which I forget what they're called. Not Animorphs. What are they called? Animorphs is an anime thing, right? Is that a furry thing? Anyway, we have these animal Transformer type things, and I thought they looked really good, as well as having the Transformers back. It's great to see them in modern times, considering those movies are old now, but even then, those older movies look really good, so it was quite interesting to see how much the CGI has changed. A big issue I had is they brought in Unicron so early, and if I remember correctly, Unicron was such a big bad character in the old Transformers movies, and it was actually a threat to worlds, and in this one is also a threat to worlds, but they defeat Unicron so easily. If Unicron's this big god that threatens the entire universe, why are you defeating him in the first movie when you're trying to make an entire franchise? That never made sense to me. But overall, I mean, it's a fine experience. I wouldn't recommend seeing it in theaters. I'd wait till it's on streaming, but I didn't hate myself for watching it. After that, I watched The Blackening. This is a really solid horror comedy from Lionsgate. I quite enjoyed it. It's directed by Tim Story, which, for those who don't know who he is, he did Taxi and Fantastic Four. So a director who's been doing things for a while now. I think the character who was the funniest the entire time was Dwayne Perkins' character. He was just hilarious. Every single second he's on screen, he was cracking a one-liner, and it was always one that landed. I don't think there's really a single joke in here that didn't land, and overall it was a good, entertaining watch. I don't really point this out much when I watch movies, but something about this cast was just fantastic. Every single person had a believable relationship. These are a group of friends who hadn't seen each other since college, and they're getting together to have a party over Juneteenth weekend, and each relationship between all these people feels so real. A lot of times when you get these big ensemble movies, these characters just feel like their own person, and they feel like they never have actual relation to the people around them, or if they do, it doesn't feel believable. But in this movie, much like Scream or Bodies, 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 I think all these actors do a great job at making the relationships with each character complicated, and overall that makes for a very fun watch, and, you know, this is one I would recommend seeing in theaters if it's still in your area. Next, I watched Asteroid City. On paper, I should have liked this one more. I mean, it was my first Wes Anderson movie I've seen in theaters. I've seen Wes Anderson movies now, but that was like the first one I've seen in theaters, and I don't know, it left me wanting more, and I might have to rewatch it so I can gather my thoughts on it better, but for right now, it's sitting where it sits purely because I was just so mixed on it. It feels deeply personal compared compared to other Wes Anderson movies, and that's saying something considering a lot of Wes Anderson movies are personal narratives for him. I like this whole theme of the world within frames. You have a character taking photos the entire movie, you have the entire structure of this being a stage play, you have people working in the movie industry, you have a teacher with lesson plans. All of these are frames to view the world in a certain way and feel like these characters have control and feel like the audience has control. And that's what this whole movie's about. It's about you can only control so much in your life. Things will happen and you won't be able to explain them all. You can do everything right on paper and put it in a frame, make it look nice and neat, but at the end of the day, it won't always explain why things happen and things won't always go the way you want. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this movie. It's also just a movie that's discussing this whole idea of telling stories, sharing thoughts and ideas with the world, and I think that's shown both in the stage play element and also what the stage play itself is about. The cast was great. It's a big ensemble cast. I feel like this month has been a big month for ensemble casts, and they were all good in their own ways. I think some were stronger than others, like Steve Carell. Love seeing him in here, but I can't see anything but Michael Scott whenever he's in things, which sucks, but it's just the way it is for me. But he was still great, and I appreciated his performance in this movie. I also like the visual style. I think that's just a given with Wes Anderson. You either like the visual style or you don't, and in this one, I quite liked it. Visually and shot-wise, it didn't feel much different than his last one, The French Dispatch, but it still felt unique enough to be its own standout within his filmography. Then I saw The Flash, and before you get mad that this is the same rating I gave Asteroid City, I don't care. I liked The Flash. I still don't know what initial audiences were saying when they said this is the best superhero movie ever, including Stephen King. What? What was he thinking? Like, this is a great superhero movie, but overall, like, best superhero movie of all time? No shot, not even close. Like, I love you, Andy Muschietti, but there's no way this is one of the best superhero movies of all time. What the f*** was that CGI? I'm all for bad CGI if you lean into it, and Andy Muschietti pointed out, like, oh, we did it on purpose, but there's no way they did this on purpose. With a budget of $200 million, there's no way this CGI was intentionally this bad. I was watching this movie with some friends, and the first 5 minutes, I was already laughing my ass off because of how bad the running cycle looked for The Flash. There's also that scene in the opening with the babies in the microwave. Like, listen, I get we can't have real babies in microwaves, but then don't do babies falling out of a building at all. Just do something like normal people, because those babies' CGI was so bad. The other thing I wasn't the biggest fan of is the Superman CGI cameo. It just felt very disgusting to put that in the movie. I rewatched Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is in my top 4 movies of all time if you follow me on Letterboxd, which you should follow me on Letterboxd. Go down to the link in the description. This movie's just flawless. It's one of the best of all time. I mean, the whole central theme of this movie is kindness. There's a lot more themes to explore, but that's just the gist of what you can pull away if you're going at a very surface level. I also like this take on positive nihilism that nothing matters, so everything matters. You assign what matters to you in this world, and I think that's what's so beautiful about the story of Everything Everywhere All at Once. It takes the whole idea of the multiverse and says, yeah, everything's infinite, nothing matters because of this multiverse, but that means everything matters, and we make what matters in this world, and I think that's something so beautiful about this movie. I finally got to see Bones and All, and somehow I didn't have this movie spoiled before watching it. I really liked it. Luca Guadagnino is a very talented director, and I think this is one of his best works. We have Call Me By Your Name, Suspiria, and this, and you know, I love Suspiria, and I love Call Me By Your Name, but Bones and All just takes the cake. I think its direction is great, I think its characters are fantastic, I think the story it's telling is beautifully tragic, and gore isn't a necessity in horror movies, but I think having a movie about cannibals, you need some gore, and I think it did a good job. I was genuinely shocked at the very beginning of the movie with the scene at the sleepover. I was very shocked with them swinging that hard out the gates. I think Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell have great chemistry together as Marin and Lee. I love their relationship to see how it develops throughout. These two outcasts in society who love each other very much, and I think it's a beautiful thing to follow. Let's go! I hated that. I watched the Super Mario movie again. It's just so fun. It makes me happy. I think that's like the 3rd or 4th time I've watched the Super Mario movie, but it's just so fun. You got great characters. The voice acting works. I know a lot of people were worried about it. I didn't like Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. It's whatever. I've seen this movie so many times now that he's grown on me, but he's out of all the cast. I really love the music in this movie, and that's what does it for me the most. I want to shout out Brian Tyler because he was given the entire Mario Bros. Catalog, it seems, of music, and he was able to remix a lot of these into fantastic songs that I still listen to while I edit. Oh, and Jack Black. I feel like I have to mention him. This guy can act his f***ing ass off. I then moved away from rewatching older movies from the year and the year before and watched Elemental. It's the newest Pixar film, and honestly, it's alright. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I think people are hating on it a bit too much, and I think its marketing campaign was definitely a piece of shit. Basically, it's Pixar telling a story about an immigrant family and how that affects the main character and her parents. And I think they chose a very unique way to do this, and I think it works ultimately. You also have this romance between the main character who is fire, the other character who's water. It's funny because it's elements. The water guy is just kind of annoying. He cries the entire time, and that's his only joke, and it's because he's water. I think the fire character is much more bearable to follow than the water guy, who's kind of just a nobody. But Claude, why the was he used as such a marketing tool? No fault to the actor in any way, but whoever wrote Claude in clearly just wanted to write in a running gag throughout the entire movie, and I just didn't need that. Speaking of romance, I watched No Hard Feelings, a raunchy, technically romantic comedy, not really a romantic comedy, featuring Jennifer Lawrence. She kills in this role. She does such a great job. She commits to the bit the entire time, and for those who don't know what the bit of this movie is, basically these parents hire this 30-year-old woman to date, in air quotes, their son before he goes to college. Basically, she's trying to him the entire movie. This movie just brings back my love for Jennifer Lawrence as an actress. I think she's very charming, and she's very good at making lines that are normally stupid and ridiculous 10 times funnier. There's a whole joke that they put in the trailer about touching his wiener and he's holding a wiener dog. On paper, that is a stupid joke. It doesn't work, but something about the way Jennifer Lawrence does it makes it work so well, and I was laughing my ass off. The next movie I feel like I can summarize in one scenario. Yeah, this movie just emotionally smacks you in the face over and over again. I watched Past Lives. This movie smacks you across the face with emotions every 5 seconds. This is maybe my favorite movie of the year. For sure my favorite of the month, but maybe even my year. It feels like it fits into two genres. You have this genre of philosophy and you have this genre of romance. Obviously it's a romance movie, but I think the philosophy element of it comes into the form of its actual name, Past Lives, and like our interactions with people, and I'll get into that in a second. But I also love the romance element of it. The main characters, Nora and Hae-sung, talk about this Korean term Inyan, which is this Buddhist-derived concept about every meeting between two souls is the product of countless interactions or near interactions that happened in their past lives, hence the title of the movie. So basically you have Nora and Hae-sung, two people who live in Korea, and they're in love as little kids. As much as love can be a thing for little kids. It's like a little crush, you know? It's really cute. It's a sweet little moment at the beginning of the movie. And then Nora's family moves from Korea to America. She starts her life there. She grows up and becomes an adult, so does Hae-sung. And then they find each other again through Facebook and reconnect as they're older. They talk for about a year. You can tell they really are into each other and they want to make a relationship, but they can't quite because they're worlds apart. So they go their own separate ways. Nora ends up marrying this white guy that she meets on a retreat, and Hae-sung kind of lives out his life. He has to go to military service for a little bit, and they finally reconnect 12 years later. Hae-sung comes down to the United States to come see Nora, and then that's where the movie really takes off. You get to sit with this relationship between Nora and Arthur for a little bit before Hae-sung really starts to come in, and it's just overall beautiful. It's a movie about the what ifs. It's a movie about living in the now and understanding that sometimes in life, the people you know, whether it be a friendship or in this case, a relationship, your paths won't always merge. Sometimes they split and go different directions, and you can't really go back and redo that because you have to live in the now. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing to explore. The movie could have easily taken this route of a love triangle between the characters of Hae-sung, Nora, and Arthur, but it doesn't. Instead, it shows that sometimes in life, things don't go the way you expect. But even if they don't go the way you expect, you have to understand the path you went down is the path that was destined for you, and that's okay. You make what you can of your life, and I think that's what's so beautiful about this movie. And its ending leaves you really sad. I know this is a little bit all over the place. I just really love this movie, and I'm still trying to process what it's all about, and I'll eventually get there. I definitely want to rewatch it. I definitely think there's a lot to take away from this movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor and go catch it in theaters. It's one of those movies that everyone's going to be talking about by the end of the year, and I think it's got a timeless message. And the last thing I saw for the month was Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. I enjoyed it enough. The problem with this Indiana Jones movie and the last one is they lacked movie magic. A lot of it's CGI, so it makes it hard to believe these action sequences are actually happening, and I know that sounds like a lame complaint, but when you go look at the original trilogy of Indiana Jones movies, part of the reason they're so entertaining is because all the danger feels palpable. You can actually tell it's happening. But in this movie, it's almost like everything that's happening you can tell is just on a green screen, so it doesn't feel like there's any real danger to these people. My biggest issue is the de-aging. We did not need these sequences of a de-aged Harrison Ford. It looks so weird, and it falls into the uncanny valley, and I just couldn't stand it. It distracted me so many times. We didn't need a whole 20-minute sequence of young Indiana Jones during World War II again. I love young Indiana Jones, don't get me wrong, but I didn't need to see him de-aged in a modern modern movie. If I want young Indiana Jones, I'd just go watch the original trilogy. And I think that's one of the things that detracted from this. But yeah, that's everything I watched for the month of June, both new and old. I hope you enjoyed. July's already off to a good start. I'm watching a lot of good movies, and now we have Barbenheimer coming out soon, so keep eyes and ears open for that. But yeah, guys, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, follow me on Letterboxd and Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!